or to the city website representing a business or a property owner. Okay, looks like are we? It's going. Oh. All right, city website representing a business or a property owner to be delayed. There you go. Okay, welcome everybody. Happy New Year. To our January 23rd Downtown Advisory Board meeting. That is our welcome. Call to order. Myself, I am here. Charles Weathers. I'm here. Kirk Sun, not present. Alan Pollock. Here. Rory McManus. Here. Kiana Chase. Here. Lori Miller. Here. Vanessa Kostovich. Here. And our newest member, Angie Oven.
Here.
Angie, welcome. Thanks for joining us. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I own the Bridal Gallery in Texas on Tap, and I've been a downtown business owner for 17 years. I'm also a lead business advisor at the Small Business Development Center, and I work great too. So I think that's how.
What attracted you to join the downtown advisory board?
Linda did a few years ago. No, I sat on the Salem Main Street Association for a while. I think I was just ready to look into something a little bit different. So I'm passionate about downtown. I always have been, and I think too I'm an eternal optimist, and I don't like sales. I'm pretty persuasive too. So. Talents.
Well, you're in the right place with a passion for sales. So thanks for being here. With that, we move to agenda item number 3 with the approval of our agenda.
To approve the agenda.
Second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor of the approval of today's agenda say aye. Aye. Those not, nay. Motion carries. Moving forward to agenda item number 4, the approval of minutes from our December 18th meeting.
Approve the minutes.
So if there's any further questions or comments, if there's not, all those in favor of the approval of minutes from our December 18th meeting say aye. Those not, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 5, public comment. Today, delighted to have Councilor Nishioka. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Instead of sitting in my back camp house, I'll sit here for this one. So I just wanted to reintroduce myself. City Councilor Ward 2. I am assigned to, I'm the advisory for the Downtown Advisory Board. So I'm here and will try to make most of your meetings. There may be times when it conflicts with another schedule. So I just want you to know that at any point you can reach out to me. As the liaison, that's what I'm assigned to. I'm not here to sit at the table or be really involved in your meeting. It's mainly I'm here to be present if you have questions, or if I need to bring something to you, or if the group needs to bring something to me. So that's why when I come in, that's why I usually sit in the back, because I don't want to feel like I'm at your table. So anyway, that's just for some clarity. So I hope that you're all aware that I'll just bring some information that the council is now looking at bringing forward a livability levy. So we had our work session on that Tuesday night, and we're working out some minor details, and we'll hopefully be making a decision in February to bring this forward to the main ballot. And there have been things that have been in the background working, which was the forecast review team, who reviewed the forecast percentages for our 5-year budget. Some adjustments were made, so the budget deficit that had been at 17.8 just back in November is now down to 13.9-ish, I think. So we're just saying 14. And then a committee that's called a efficiencies committee is going to be meeting with city staff and the city manager and finance department. Ernesto is one of the people on that, And they'll be looking at the overall budget and trying to see if there's any adjustments that can be made in efficiencies, and that may help us. So we'll see. But at the same time, doesn't change that we are underfunded and that this will be coming forward. The Library Advisory Board has also, many organizations have got behind us, but they've really come to the table, and they will be supporting the ballot going to the measure going to the ballot with $50,000 to get that on the ballot. So that's a great sign that the community definitely wants this, at least opportunity for our voters to decide. That's the most latest news. Is there anything I can answer before I take off?
What is the estimated, there was two options on the rate.
Yes, thank you.
What is the estimated, is it just to meet that demand of the 14 million, or is it above?
So the 98 cents per $1,000 assessed value for the median income would provide us for the first year right about what we would need, depending upon what we finally decide is the enhanced or restored services to the library. That's the key thing that we're trying to look at. Do we want to just increase the hours, but maybe decrease programs? Do we want to bring it to what it was just after COVID when we had to cut it a while back, or do we want to restore it to even more hours? That's kind of where our sticky point is right now. And at 98 cents, that would allow us, if we would do the enhancement at what was advised with bringing staff from 39.5 to 55 and adding hours, bringing it back from what we recently reduced it, but not what it had been before COVID. We would be right at the mark for the first year of having enough money, but each year we would start to drop down and not have the levy be able to fully fund all of those programs. I think the second year would be like $1 million, and it jumps to like $1.4 million, and it just keeps going up. So the concern is, do we want to go at 98 cents because we feel voters will be okay with that amount? But then we'd have to adjust the budget later on to find the money in the general fund to offset the obligations of the levy. Or do we want to go for 110, which would supplement the services at the restored for COVID amounts, and we would not be in deficit for the full 5 years, so that we would be able to bring all of what we've obligated on that levy to the voters without having to grab hold of some funds in the general fund. So that's what we're looking at. What's that happy space for people? And what will it be able to deliver? And those are the things we have to come to terms on.
Thank you for the explanation. I know there's a lot of stakeholders at the table, and it's a big body of work.
And
Thank you.
our financial team is amazing, that's all I can say. Any other questions?
Can you provide some detail on what would happen if the levy did not pass?
And we would be cutting 8%, we would be chunking, we would be firing, we'd probably close a fire station. We would probably have to fire some police officers or just not hire once some left. It would kind of, there's a lot of give and take over that year, so we might not let go of anyone in the police department, because this levy will actually preserve us to keep public safety at where it is. If we don't do this, then we're gonna have to go into public safety. That's one of the big things about making sure that we are supporting those services, but not undercutting the budget. So we will have to find ways, and it would be about 50 people that we would have to let go.
50 out of how many?
You know,
Or total police.
no,
The
it's,
total city.
so he said 50
Total
cents,
city is, I don't know,
1,200.
1,200.
Yeah.
So 50. So it's about 3%.
8%. That's what Keith has been telling us.
Because not all of those employees are in the general fund,
Oh,
so it's a smaller number that's in the
Yes,
general.
thank you for pointing that out.
the deal, just, I'm not expecting you to know, but I'm curious, how many people are service providers, police, firefighters, and so forth, versus administrative staff sitting in the offices?
Your sworn officers,
Not sworn, administrative staff, not police, like city.
Oh, you-
oh, okay,
How many
outside of police and
people you
fire.
have, not public facing, not providing services, but doing administrative jobs at the city? It's okay if you don't know, I was just curious.
We don't know, but a lot of those administrative services are providing things like getting permits through
Yeah, yeah.
or services that will be challenged in the sense of being able to get them done.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it depends on if you're just looking at staff assistance, staff support, or if you're looking at management analysts who help with budget preparation. So,
all of the above.
yeah, all of the above. I would say. I would say 70 to 100 throughout the organization.
Okay.
Although I just don't have a whole lot of insight into police and fire.
Yeah.
They run those positions.
So we will also be going, there's a bill, this is why I'm gonna go down and talk to one of our representatives at the state level. There's a bill coming forward with payment in lieu of taxes, which is, they're going to be presenting, it's right now a bipartisan. And they're saying 7 million for 2 years, so it'd be 14 total. I don't know if that will pass, and then the governor would also need to decide. So that's again an if. We now have the software to adjust our operations costs, and this will be for businesses, especially the larger, that's gonna be based on square footage, size of your building. There'll be an increase in the operations fee that will bring in money, but all of this will take a bit of time, so we will likely see at least some cuts before we see other resources of revenue that may potentially come down the line.
So the state provides funds, the deficit will go down to 7.
If we got that amount and we got it within a
Reasonable.
given year.
Yeah.
So the scenario 2 is the fact that we're gonna very potentially have to cut people, and it takes a while, even when you get the money, it takes a while to build that back up to be able to deliver the services.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be hurting pretty good if the levy fails. If the levy doesn't fail, because that's gonna be, we start to see that money come in, December. And certainly by January, within that fiscal year, we would be able to make the adjustments, but if it failed, then the rest of 2025 will start to look pretty bad. We'll make
And
those
that's in
cuts.
May, right?
Yes, May 20.
The payment in lieu of taxes is Representative Anderson's proposed bill.
It's the Representative Anderson and Mannix's.
Oh,
They're signed on together, so is
That's
Jeff
great.
Patterson. Yes, that's why there's some hope behind it.
that's great.
And it'll be interesting to see. Again, it's only set for 2 years. And we're not the only city in this state that has financial problems.
Right.
And we're not the only city that has state properties. So they have to be looking at the possibility, oh, if Salem gets this, then we want it too.
We just have the most.
What we have is a Capitol building that gets at least $2.5 million worth of public safety every year without any payment.
Right.
So, in my honest opinion, I would rather see a bill coming forward that's more like 2.5 million, but it's all the time, it's not just set for 2-year limit. So,
Right.
but hey, right now, I'll take whatever they give us.
Yeah.
But, so there's 2 ways to look at it. And I think the biggest concern for some of the other representatives that, like Eugene, they got a lot of state property. And so they're gonna say, hey, well, you're helping Salem out. Let's help the other cities. The thing is that we have the capital, so it becomes the capital district. And it might be that we can find ways that then just isolate that, so then other cities don't come to them to break the bank.
We also have prisons, you know, these other,
Pardon me?
we also have prisons. I don't know that other cities have, maybe they
I know that others do.
do, but I think predominantly we.
I know that Tualatin does, there's others I've seen them, so yeah, but another good point.
Just dumb question, I mean, I thought
No,
it
it's
had to
not.
do with like a body of water or something, so does this apply to all property regardless of occupancy?
The operations fee,
No, the levy
the levy is for residential properties.
only.
Yeah, it's where you pay your property taxes. Well, it would be
Well,
businesses,
well,
yes, it would be businesses as well.
Right, so all real property.
Yeah.
Even if it's a nonprofit that's occupied and it has
No,
that exemption.
nonprofit don't, no, they do not.
Right, they don't pay
But yeah.
tax, but a levy is different than a tax.
It's still assessed on your property tax.
Right,
So I think if you have the,
If you're not, if you're,
but I think the exemption, because it is a property tax levy.
so,
The nonprofit exemption would apply for this.
so they would not,
but it's all real property, not just residential.
correct. Thank you. We give that, we give the example of what it costs a property owner, so.
Sure.
Is there a strategy for 5 years from now?
Breaks, lucky breaks, that's the one.
Well, that can depend on a lot of things that happen in budget years, you know, each budget year, we might see other opportunities for other revenue. But that's what's nice about a levy, this is why I think people recognize or appreciate a levy versus an ongoing tax, is they can say, oh, it was great for those 5 years, I'm not gonna vote for it again. So you have an end period.
Sunset.
Yeah, it sunsets, but if people say, wow, we love the services you provided, I want to continue them, then we would likely have another one going forward. But it all depends upon what other revenue is coming in. That,
It's a double-edged sword.
yes, it is, it's a big, and that is one reason why we're not bringing forward a public safety levy. Because we don't want to risk our police and fire to be on a 5-year rotation. And so the livability levy is certainly more affordable in the sense of what we can charge for the needs. And we do not want to get stuck where we're begging you every 5 years to keep the public safety levy going, because then we might have to close another fire station or remove 10 more police officers. So this was one of the Revenue Task Force recommended 2 possible levies, 1 public safety, 1 livability for the community services. And this is what we feel is the better levy to bring forward.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I hear you guys go.
Linda.
All right.
Thank you.
I didn't catch who motion and second to admit
Lori, second. Agenda item number 6, action item A. Recommend the Urban Renewal Agency approve the fiscal year 2026 budget for the Brooklyn downtown urban renewal area. We got into this last meeting. Not all of us are here. If you want to open up that for discussion, or do people feel satisfied with our work from last meeting, or do we need a refresher from Tori?
There's a couple of things to touch on. So last time we met the group, there's a study in here, towards the second talk, the vacant building space analysis and impacts to economy. It's framed as a market analysis. It was intended to be, we want to engage someone to see what the vacancies are around downtown, what's happening, and also understand, because the other communities have mechanism compliance approaches to address long-term vacancies on the ground floor. We're doing a lot of investments in downtown, streetscapes, businesses, buildings. The last thing you want to see is vacancy at the ground floor when you have people walking by. Just kind of contributes for renewal. We're addressing blight. It's one of those blight things that we have to deal with downtown. So that's really the intent of it. So last time the group was hung up a little bit on the framing of the market. It's not really to understand the real estate market, it's just to understand what's happening with vacancies and how can we address long-term ground floor vacancies, if there's some kind of compliance or enforcement, something. So that's just that. So that's represented on here. Another thing to call your attention to, it's about 5, 6 from the bottom. The Shemeka leasehold for $550,000 is the new line item. Otherwise, everything else is the same. But what we've learned, we knew that as part of the Shemeka parking structure, we have these offices down here. We also have other leases, and we have significant structural building failure of the atrium across the street that requires basically full building improvement, capital improvement. So now we understand what that cost is, so we have it here, so we can address it every year. So that's the other item. Otherwise, everything else is. Questions? Again, this is the renewal, Riverfront downtown renewal budget for the recommendation to the renewal agency.
So those are the only 2 specific adjustments from the last time.
So I'll move Tori Manfred. I've been here a few times, I was here on the street last time, so thank you for having me. Also, William O'Donnell is our financial budget manager, so he's fairly new. I think he might have been maybe here at the last meeting too. So, and Melissa, thank you for working on all this. We're doing our best to help facilitate. Shrew is a big one too. She's a big creator. We'll miss her. So we're all trying to fill in where we can. So.
Maybe just a high level view, since I wasn't here, was there any hot topics you guys remember that you spent a lot of time on? Budget besides that, discussion.
We did spend, I guess hot, like, we did spend a lot of time about framing how we talked about vacant building space analysis and impacts to the economy. Lori, you had a pretty strong immediate reaction and opinion on that. But for the good of the order, I think we should talk about it. This is a large budget, $50,000 to $50,000. I'll put you on the spot, Lori.
Oh, well, and we're talking about the study again? Yeah. So, well, I think I think it's a lot of money. It's probably being done by someone who doesn't live in Salem. And, aren't there other ways of investigating what kind of course of action we could take in downtown rather than wouldn't that be money more well spent? How can we approach these people legally and everything else? And we can throw that money away to some Portland or Bay Area or whatever consultant that even know they don't know when to come here.
We had a healthy discussion about it. It was constructive.
Yeah, so anyway, so that was what I was thinking. You know what I mean? We spend a lot of money on study. It's like, if we're gonna spend it, then let's spend it on somebody who lives here.
The one benefit that I see is it's an outside, so there are other communities that have addressed the ground floor vacancies through an enforcement compliance mechanism. We don't have that, so that's the benefit. If we could have someone that could do that research, probably have staff, we could probably take some time to do some of that, but we'd be engaging someone. Some of what I understood too from the last meeting, the concern was, it almost sounded like real estate broker community, like we're encroaching into their expertise. That's not the intent. It's really to understand, yes, on the Salem side, why we have vacancies, that's very much something we have to address, but on the other side, the compliance piece would be kind of unique.
So for me, there are 2 things that I would really want to get out of this study. So one would be, what are other communities doing, either from an enforcement capacity, right? So that we know what best practices are and what we might be able to implement here. The other part that's more the carrot than the stick approach is, we've had the toolbox program in its current form for about 10 years. And maybe something different is needed now, right? So I would want to have whoever's doing the study to have conversations with those that have long-term vacancies, to find out what their barriers are and help us determine, is this an approach where a stick is better or a carrot is better? And do we need different carrots? And then in terms of, contracting that out, we just don't have the staff capacity to do that. Our department is shrunk over the years, and we have vacancies, and we're onboarding new people. Sheree's replacement has been hired, and she starts February 10th, and she comes to us with a significant amount of urban renewal experience.
Where is she from?
She's from Prosper, Portland.
Where?
Prosper, Portland.
Hospital. So I got a pushback with you.
Push back.
So I'm with you there. I remember I was a student at Willamette MBA and I worked for state as an intern. They paid me $15. We worked on formation of Nexus unit, which is very, very serious tax unit, the tax the tax companies that have any presence for sales in North Dakota. And I would call up other states and ask them, what are you guys doing? So why don't you do that? Like you can hire Willamette and student or whoever student and pay him a little bit of money to do that research.
So
Rather than, like, I'm really skeptical of the consultants.
it's a fair point, Ernesto, and we still have to have a budget to hire the people to do that, right? And we have to have somebody,
And we keep
To
on in
manage
the community. Just call up other cities and say what you guys want.
but we don't have the capacity to do
Yeah, but we would find it like, instead of $50,000, we can have maybe $10,000 and hire a good student, provide them with great experience, and there we go. So anyway,
Yeah,
so that's my pushback.
it could potentially be an intern program. We've used interns for other types of projects over the years. Using interns requires quite a bit more staff time than using a consultant does. There's a lot more hands-on management and guidance because, it's not just getting lower cost labor, it's also creating a learning opportunity
Yeah, creating
for
value
somebody else, right?
in the
Yeah,
community rather than paying somebody.
which is a good thing, but it's more capacity.
It's good.
Just real quick, Sheree was here for 22 years or something, right? She's talked to all of these building owners. Now, has anybody recorded what she knows about each one of these people? Because they all have different situations. Who can sit on a building for 30 years and not touch it? You see what I'm saying? So how many cities have that problem? Where they pay their taxes and they don't do anything. So this may be we have a handful of unique situations that we already know about. Sheree knows about them. I'm sure you know about them because Sheree told you. So, that's half of the battle right there is that handful of buildings. They're pretty big buildings that are just sitting there and they can afford to let them sit there.
And it's not uncommon in communities to have that. I had a person from another community explain to me once that and this, somebody's retired a long time ago, that they saw on the cycle of their community that with a lot of these properties and these kinds of issues, it's sort of a generational thing. And with the transition from one generation to another generation, right, then you start seeing a new generation that's, okay, well, now we want to do something with this. And that may be the case, in a community like Salem, where you have properties that are in trust or been held for a very long time. And in that situation, a carrot is not going to work that well, right? Because there's really just not a lot that is going to incentivize them. And then that might be more of some sort of fine or penalty or tax approach. And there aren't many communities that do have that in place. So that would be one of the deliverables that we would want to see is what is working in other communities that, that we're not seeing in our neighboring communities. But what's working in Idaho or what's working in Illinois or Indiana or wherever, in terms of not just incentivizing, but creating a climate where it's because of a penalty or a tax going to become an incentive to do something?
So it's good to hear your input on it, because I didn't hear these 2 points when we talked about it in our last meeting. I'm comfortable allocating $50,000. You see some of these line items, we don't spend what's been allocated. But especially when you consider the new hire that's coming on, for them to have an allocation for doing something like that as they're getting up to speed, and especially like tier 2 points from the carrot. Yeah, we might be able to look at urban renewal with a different lens and a different way to do things. I mean, as a commercial broker who's had his office downtown for 6 years, who's sold and leased a lot of buildings downtown, I can tell you every single vacancy, especially ground floor, right now. And yeah, I've certainly got ideas on how to spend that $50,000 with a room and a pizza and a phone and while I'm an MBA college students. But yeah, I think there is a balance. But I think empowering this new hire, with having that as a line item at their disposal, there's some wisdom to that. My question would be, would it be on staff to decide, or would it get brought before us, the prospective scope or RFP for that line item? Or would that be just staff?
In terms of determining what the deliverables are
Sure.
going to be?
Yeah, we don't wanna get in the weeds,
Yeah,
but
no, I think we could come back in terms of putting input on developing that scope. I think that when Dana is the new Shuri, when Dana is on board, I think it's a conversation we could have with her as well, before we even start implementing the scope. And what information we would want, and she might come with ideas from her experience in Portland.
Sure.
She's done a lot of
Hope so.
neighborhood economic development in our rural areas. And, she can even do things there that we've never contemplated here that would be very applicable.
Did the city council ever explore taxing this property?
We've not had that conversation.
I'll tell you, I just asked my friend ChatGPT. It says, Washington DC implements vacant property tax, so empty buildings are taxed at significantly higher rate. Oakland, California, $6,000 annually for vacant commercial properties.
You just saved us $50,000.
I'm not kidding.
We'll do it for
Solutions are easy.
the check.
Well done, Ernesto.
Done.
But definitely need some sort of like documentation or backing on why we actually need to implement these strategies.
Well, the conversation that we had at the last meeting about this is about eliminating roadblocks for maybe prospective developers that are coming in. I don't know if a market study like this would be helpful or trigger the next big development for multifamily or other economic activity, but there was a portal that could be accessed, like we got into it last time about a grocery study. We talked about that. There's been lots of them. But it's about, making sure that Salem has a sign on it that says we're open for business and development, and that the city is intentionally investing in this kind of collateral. Whether it's, derived from ChatGPT, which I'm using every day too, or it's a college student, or it's, you made a great analysis about the value of consultant too, but I'm skeptical of them too always. That's healthy. So back to the point. That's the only other hot thing I can think of, grocery stuff. But for me in my position right now, I'm just saying I'm comfortable allocating that amount and putting it in as a line item. I think our conversation's been really healthy. But I think today we do need to make a recommendation. We do need to vote on it. So, but I'm not saying we're done talking. Let's keep talking about this. It's all good. So, I guess this is where I say, is there any other conversation on this particular item? All right, let's vote on it then.
Can I just ask you, what's this item, support of climate action plan? $725,000.
What did you say?
$725,000.
That's parking equipment.
The kiosk
The
for
kiosk
the
parking,
paid parking.
yes.
Oh,
So we put
okay.
them, they're on order, they're arriving in the spring. And so that's just how they categorized it to get the money for it.
Very good, okay.
Yeah, the reason it's categorized that way is, this goes back a few years, when we were, doing the studies and the city was doing the climate action plan. One of the recommendations was the conversion to free on-street parking. And coming out of that recommendation, that's
good.
how it's carried over.
So are we gonna have also an app for parking?
Yes, we are.
Good, that's good.
Okay. Anybody? Ask for a motion if someone is willing to.
I move.
Oh, do it.
You do, no second.
I move that we recommend the urban renewal agency Riverfront downtown fiscal year 2026 budget.
You get all that?
I second.
Thank you.
Second, okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of a recommendation of approval of the urban renewal agency's fiscal year 2026 budget for the Riverfront downtown renewal area, say aye.
Aye.
Those not, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Healthy discussion, I love it. Moving forward, agenda item number 6, action item B. Recommend the city council approve the fiscal year 2026 budget for the downtown parking district.
I think the change here, you'll see the year-over-year. Right, so the hope is with park technology, parking being implemented, we'll start to see that shift. So, yeah, it's the same, it's all.
This is the cost center and the zero.
Right. Make that parking. So this is just the parking district fund separate. We have some estimates anticipated revenue, but we're not doing anything with that. Once that becomes actual, it'll be able to work. But yeah, that'll start.
So I know businesses used to pay for free parking. Is that going away now?
So it will be going away. So right now, businesses within the parking district pay the parking tax. We will start the installations this spring and the parking kiosks, paid parking will go online in July. And then we will be, it's probably gonna be about 18 months down the road, then we will be undoing the parking tax. So we're gonna have about a year and a half of crossover as we start, tracking and seeing the revenue from the parking stations.
So is that the downtown parking tax line item, the reduction of that for next year is reflective of that?
That's not reflective of the unwinding, I think that's reflective of the decrease in collections. Yeah, that's probably makes sense.
The pro forma on the paid parking looks exciting. Seeing lots of exciting performance, but there's a great parking consultant that's engaged. But yeah, there is the overlap of the two because of the detriment to the budget. I said they couldn't get any orders. This has been so many years working towards this point.
Yeah, I didn't want to ask too many questions about it because I know
Oh, it's okay, it's good.
but my curiosity was just why is that percentage smaller?
That's mostly reflective basis.
So it's interesting that there's no parking enforcement budget, so that's different.
Parking enforcement's budgeted out of the general fund.
General, okay. And also I assume there's some security too, right?
That right now is also funded out of the general fund. And it's an interdepartmental.
Do we use private?
We do. Yes, we are working with the finance department to, once we start having the metered revenue and we're unwinding the parking tax, to look at creating a more of an enterprise fund for parking so that we've got all of our expenses and revenues in the same fund, so it's much more transparent. Right now, things are just kind of parsed out to different funds. And it makes it very difficult to see if your revenues are paying for your expenses.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, If there's no further discussion, I can ask for a motion if someone's going to put one forward for recommendation.
Downtown parking budget.
Second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the city council to approve fiscal year 2026 budget for the downtown parking district, say aye. If not, nay. Motion carries. Unanimous. Thank you. These two items are some of the two core functions of this advisory board, so when they get to that, it feels good, because there's so much work that goes into that with staff, and so we really appreciate it. So we'll send it up to council, see what happens. Agenda item number 7, information reports. The first one is the Urban Renewal Agency is seeking comments on the possible merger of Urban Renewal Advisory Boards. Wow,
Yeah, so that was discussed also.
mergers and acquisitions are back on everywhere.
And Chris is making
Yeah.
around.
I'm gonna come around, so I'm not talking to the possibilities. So I've heard clearly the love of studies and consultants. So this comes out of some consulting work. So the city retained Moss Adams to do a number of different studies. We've got an urban renewal audit that's underway. They've also been doing a governance study for all the city's boards and commissions. They're doing efficiency studies. So a number of different things kind of come together to form into this recommendation. So this recommendation was shared with council to see if it was something that they might want to pursue further. So their direction was, let's take it back to our advisory boards now and get input. So the information that they're looking at that formed this recommendation is that we have currently 8 urban renewal areas, 7 that are still collecting tax increments, areas could be going away, 3 that have advisory boards. And of those 3, the North Gateway urban renewal area, that's gonna be reaching maximum indebtedness in a couple of years. Then we've got West Salem that's gonna reach maximum indebtedness in about a year after that. So in about a 4-year window, we're starting the winding down process of these urban renewals. We also have a couple of others, Mill Creek hit Hillcrest hit maximum indebtedness this year, Mill Creek hit maximum indebtedness in another year. And we're looking at creating new urban areas. So the waterfront one is one that's in development right now. We have council direction to start that process. There's also been interest in looking at new urban renewal areas in other parts of the community. Out around Lancaster, on Mission Street, on State Street, and a couple of other areas that have come up. We're also looking at urban renewal areas to help us with our housing production strategy, which might be, a completely different model than we're doing right now, which might be more like 20 or 50 acre urban renewal areas tied to increased housing density within certain areas. And so with that, and looking at the upcoming closure of urban renewal areas and creating new ones, the thought was, should we start transitioning to a citywide advisory board that would be, starting out made up with representatives from our current urban renewal boards, 3 or 4 from each of those boards, and then people more broadly around the community to provide input on, wrapping up and closing down the 2 and weighing in on future urban renewal areas geographically and in terms of projects and type of structure. So that's what led to this, looking at a potential consolidation of that along with efficiencies. Because with these efficiency studies, we're looking at, where are we duplicating efforts with city staff and looking at all of the different staff support that goes into running multiple boards. And so does it make sense also that from an efficiency perspective to have one board rather than supporting three boards? So that's the background, and now discuss.
Who, me? It all makes sense, but I don't like it. Because I'm not an expert, I'm not well versed in rural at large or any of the other maps or areas, but I know downtown real well, and so I wouldn't want someone to speak into my area that doesn't, and vice versa. But efficiencies and simplicity, I like all that, but I don't know how it would be made up in a way that would still be efficient in and of itself from the membership standpoint.
So what's the cost of running boards?
I can tell you.
It's more time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with him, I'm thinking if you form one board, some people, everybody favors their part, wouldn't we have a risk of, again, disadvantage parts of the town getting more disadvantaged? Because engaged people usually come from more advantage person. That would be my concern. Idea itself.
Right now. Not every.
That's right.
What's the trigger point? Determines.
So where we have active grant programs is where we have the advisory boards.
So that's West Salem, North Gateway, and downtown. Does McGilchrist and Mill Creek are?
McGilchrist has a kind of sort of grant program that we established. We established it basically to keep working for. So a few years ago, they were acquired out of the city and really wanted to stay here, but they needed to leave their West Salem facility. And so at that time, we were approached about grant programs in Gilchrist, and we did not happen. So we created one capital to keep them, and it's tied to significant job creation.
Would this super group also speak into the single property variety?
That would probably continue outside.
In my opinion, urban renewals in Salem has been such a successful program. Like everybody's, I mean, they've seen so many countless examples of it being used, and it's led literally to renewals. So it sounds like it's also adapting, like Salem is adapting, like urban renewals tied to housing production strategies and emerging areas. You mentioned State Street, North Downtown. What I think is unique about downtown is it's so specific, and you know, like why Angie, you decided to come on board because you have a passion for downtown, you're a business owner. I think we're all here for a reason because we care about downtown, want to see it flourish. And I've seen people serve on North Gateway and West Salem that really cared about those areas. So it's really nice to have a citizen advisory board opportunity for people to want to participate. But yeah, to your question as to what's the cost of that. But the metrics, it's not like key performance metrics, it's like what are we getting from that? Like I think
all of us are volunteers, so there's a lot of intangible savings from engaged people who know every little street.
Which in itself leads to efficiency.
Yeah.
Not every efficiency leads to all that stuff.
diversity of thought and opinion and constructive or non-constructive engagement. But yeah, I do see the strain on staff. I mean, it's work. I mean, we have, and our meetings just here, it takes time and effort, but I think, I've never heard somebody say they don't like the idea of having individual advisory boards. So I feel like in those studies, there's a certain element of interviews with staff and what's the impact to them, and people that actually participate, they feel like they're actually getting something out of it or actually having any impact. Like there's been times where I felt like we don't have impact And every year or so, I'm reminded that, yeah, I got up to council and they heard us, you know, I'm glad.
I think, you know, one of the impacts that they were hearing from staff that absorb a lot of staff time is keeping the board staffed and board turnover and achieving performance. So, North Gateway does not meet monthly. You can't get a quarter to meet monthly. So it's, you know, I mean, it's different within the 3 different boards. But the turnover and attendance forums, it has been a challenge. And that ends up taking a lot of staff time. You know, in terms of, let's see if we can have a council.
Is this all or we either won't become one or don't do it at all, or is there a middle ground where maybe you can cover up a couple of them? Some of the different setups.
I don't know what that can be considered, it hasn't come up so far.
Gotta think that some of these urban renewal areas gotta have some sort of representation, it would be better to have some rather than none at all. It's not worth it.
But if they don't have it now, how's having a larger group expansion people here to
Well,
represent
you
them?
so I think a big part of this is, you know, we go around the room and we look at what all these maps are gonna look like in a 4-year, 5-year time period. Big Hillcrest will be closed, Fairview will be closed. Mill Creek will be closed, or at least not collecting income, and the actual closure process can take a few years beyond when we start collecting. But it won't be active. North Gateway.
Pretty much just downtown.
Pretty much, it's pretty much just leaving downtown. So within a 5-year window, with new ones coming on board. And so to get input into the creation of the urban renewal areas can be a completely staff-driven process, or it can be something that one or more advisory boards can provide input into. You know, some of it in terms of urban renewal areas and where they go and if it makes sense, you know, comes down to land use and planning impacts, like meeting your blind findings. Some of it is just math. And will the growth in revenue support projects, and does it make sense from that perspective? And so there are a lot of different nuances that have to be factored and input in terms of, are we looking at Lancaster, or are we looking at State Street, and getting that input from an advisory board as to communities and where the community would want to see that prioritized. You know, then to take that to the council and to the associations and so on.
So what we could do is have Salem and just invite all these other guys, ladies, join here. Because they have, if they have challenges with quorum, they will still come here. We would always have a quorum, and that might help. Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
Super board, 50 people. Yeah. It's nothing. Now,
Well, so
getting to.
Or being efficient.
The recommendation that, and what we've been talking about is that in a transition, it would be starting with representation from the 3 existing boards with then some at-large citywide positions, right, that might be representative of finance, real estate, neighborhood associations, so that you have kind of a smattering across the board, or could also be some geographic representation outside of the current, like North Gateway, West Salem, downtown. So it would be some folks from this board, some from the other 2, and then some folks more broadly represented the community. Then as North Gateway and West Salem close down, then again, you start getting a more, those positions are replaced with either positions from urban rural areas, or you just keep it more broadly represented. But you would keep it, at 15 posts for us.
The thing that I like most about at least downtown advisory board is we actually get a fee or provide input into policy and actually have access to staff, which is like exciting. But when I lived in the Morningside neighborhood, I was part of the Morningside Neighborhood Association. And so much happens in the neighborhood association too. But that's not really an impact on policy. It's more, because you have to go through the neighborhood association if you want to build anything. Their input is really valuable and very adhered to at council when it comes before them. But it'd be a shame to overload a super group when clearly these are all so delineated already by their unique areas of requirements. So I love the filter, like Charles said at the beginning, I like it, but I don't. Like I like the filter of efficiency, that's aspirational, we want things to be efficient and stuff, but not to the detriment of staff. And certainly not to the detriment of feeling like the community doesn't have a voice or a table to sit at when they're going to speak life or something. Like anybody can come in here at public comment period and say something. But we decided to sign up and apply and get approved to have a seat at the table permanently. So if I had a vote in it, I'd say, hey, easy on the merger for the super group. I don't even know how that would work. Especially with the new ones that are coming. There's so much demand, so much that needs to be talked about for these areas. When you start a new renewal area, it's like the oyster. Like, what are you gonna do?
So I also want to say while I don't like it, I also like the other parts about the growth at large, talking about the housing production strategy. And maybe it's like a levy of a group, I don't know. Where it's, we call it a work session or whatever, it's a limited engagement where folks that have had experience on these boards can come and just be a part of this for a limited time, but not forsake what we already have and need to continue on. That doesn't sound that efficient, I understand, but neither does making one big one that then just goes to vaults and everyone being very territorial. So if there's some that are kind of on their sunsetting period, then I'd conglomerate those. But this one's had such a history of being so active and involved.
So more of a task force focused on the creation of the.
Yeah, because I find them very interesting. Even though I don't know anything about most of these other apps as much as here, I would like to be. It sounds cool. Smart, more grants or.
Well, especially bringing in the housing production strategy into it. We all know how big of a deal that crisis is. And there's some areas of town inside of our UGB that are going to require subsidy and creativity to get developed. So infrastructure and stuff. So
yeah, one kind of final thought was thinking about like, the efficiency component and the staff resources and stuff. It'd be interesting to consider if there's any responsibilities that staff are currently doing that a community member could do instead. Could you empower a community member to bring up their advice for the thing, or like they have ownership over that in a specific role, and that could help increase efficiency and ownership of that actual group for somebody who's not on the field.
So you said if you had a vote in this, right? And I mean, you kind of do, and that's why we're here to explain it and get this input on the council ask.
seeking comments. In the past, when the opportunity came to speak to council, Sri was nice enough, not putting us on here, to produce a memo that represented our collective thoughts. And I've heard so many thoughts, this sounds like a big memo. But
Well, I think, what I'm hearing is, the bottom line is that the board is not interested in merging. And that it works well and serves a purpose as it is. That you're not opposed to other structures around the creation of new group. That's, would be interested in serving on task force. Or something that's not a permanent body around the creation of
captured it.
Okay. So that's what we'll take back.
And the memo is something that would be passively submitted to the councilors for their packet, or would there be before you present to council the memo, or?
I think we'd probably just go back to council as an information.
Another
Were we
comment.
allowed this feedback?
I don't see it going back before March because we've got other advisory reports that we're also completed, that won't happen until February. That'll probably be the, second meeting in March before it's all wrapped up.
Just a thought, it looks like city council has much bigger fish to fry. So it's very interesting, most Adams recommend this. But then in the report to the city manager, they said that he has instructed a lot. So it looks like they're contradicting themselves in the report.
This
To me,
we have
this is like,
multiple
let's
reports.
say we make decision to do consolidation. What's the financial impact? It will be, probably not. It will be just one of the staff members having more time. So I have to make that point because I read the recommendations for the city manager and how shall I say it? I don't know that that was money well spent.
So there is another report that they are working on that is an urban renewal audit too, so they're just at the beginning of that one, where they are looking at all of the urban renewals. So we'll see in a few months what recommendations come from that one as well. But I think I have.
Well, it'd be
Nobody said no, huh?
will the memo, will we have a chance to review it before we send it up?
Why a memo, a staff report, or would you like it a form to be?
I'm just doing this as staff
Staff
report.
report.
Yeah, staff report with us reporting back the conversation.
Be great to have an opportunity to review it and before, so we can make sure we,
So
all of our thoughts.
I don't want to draft it until after we've met with the other two advisory boards so that we can report back comments from all three.
Or consolidation.
So that will probably push out things, if everybody wants to see the report goes to council, it might be that then definitely late March.
We don't want to hold up the process.
There's not a rush.
Right, do we need to vote on that?
Okay, we'll just report the feedback.
Now, the last item is information reports, paid parking survey results. I want to ask the group, show of hands. Did anyone get called and take the survey?
Did you take it?
Yeah, did you get, you got called? You got
Oh,
it?
wait, oh,
Am I the only one that didn't take the survey?
yeah, really.
I didn't want to skew the results.
Wait,
Didn't we see the last
aren't you parked on?
So.
I took
I think it closed after your last.
Yeah, last.
Wow, from the future. I just already do it.
time and space.
Yeah, so if you took any, used any of the elevators around downtown, that's the little scan. You take it online.
I'm a stairs guy.
Okay.
Did anything jump out that?
Yeah, so I remember I said at the front, you can feel free to take time to go through it, but some of the things that stood out to me, a lot of participants, 877, that's a lot. Typically, we have
Yes.
surveys you're looking to get. So the fact that there are 1,000 people in this space. Yes, as Krista mentioned, so ran from mid-November to January. So yeah, it closed after your last meeting, so it's Charles has some kind of foresight. Insider.
Have weird dreams.
Otherwise, mostly people are familiar with Parkades, so that's good to know. We've gone through a lot of effort to install new signs, and provide information online, so people are aware. They have been underutilized, but that's something they're seeing as paid parking starts to make its way downtown and more people find their way to where it's free and our structure as well. And then familiarity with the gate parking systems, it's been around a long time, the technology has, so that's good to see. Since we're introducing a technology that's similar to other communities, we want to make sure there's familiarity. So that was good. So the main things that came out that to me, safety concerns. I don't know if it's really what's perceived. I'm sure as well as some of that know. I've seen the reports of windows being broken and doors as we park a car on the street or in a parking structure. I'd say it's old windows. So I know that there's, I don't know how that's trended, it's trending up or down. There's definitely this perception that it's unsafe. It's harm parking structure. So that's a messaging effort on our part to help communicate that they're safe and when I use the parking structure, I see security all the time. I've heard that varies depending on the person, time of day, and location, but see that presence having some helps. Sorry.
I think there's an officer in the building who, there's his car was broken, fire
Okay.
the same day,
Oh,
and next week, same car.
in the parking structure.
Very.
Somebody speaking on
So yeah, that security and the parking structures definitely is there'll be more demand as we have housing and more parking. Make sure that's the case. And then as funding comes online as a result of parking technology, the priorities too were important things that stood out. Security services, sidewalk cleaning, streetscape maintenance, then it gets into some of the things like events. Safety and security.
When you say as an item, streetscape maintenance, is that like landscape maintenance?
Not the project, but yeah, one of the little, the ornamental things that enhance.
I remember we got into that because of the dogs and other things, but mostly the dogs that care like.
what about dogs?
I was asking about streetscape maintenance, and because I thought it's brand new, what are we maintaining? It's if the landscaping that's as part of the new landscaping maintenance, they were struggling with the plantings, and they even looked back at their reports and studies of what they could and should plant there, because they weren't anticipating the amount of excrements from the dogs and cats. I've seen cats on leashes too. It's kind of cute, but nonetheless, they terrorize those landscaping beds. And it's unfortunate because they're brand new and they were very expensive and they're supposed to be beautifying. And unfortunately, some are not just because they're facing that. So.
Yeah, I think it's the beautification, so like hanging baskets, things that would have to be maintained if you had a healthy parking fund. But it's kind of aspirational. If you had the money, what would you want to see? The majority were safety and security, and then it came to the beautification.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that sidewalk cleaning and alley sweeping was different. Because I was thinking about the other day, sometimes I'll go to the alleys just for a different walk versus the streets. And depending, I'm on State Street. So I'm in between Court and State all the time. It's like my little block. And the alleys are rough. The streets are okay, the alleys are in need of some serious cleaning.
Does that mean the big fancy machine goes there? Does that ever happen? Is that an option?
What was that
What?
question?
The one that they named?
Yeah, it's a good question, I don't know.
Well, maybe we can get partners in here and we'll be able to run it through.
I'm curious, have you guys done outreach? But I see some business owners clean from their places, and some expect it. Has anybody talked to these people who are not cleaning? But I feel that's responsibility to own a business, to take care of your front. But many people don't. So it might be a good idea to talk with them and say, hey, why don't you clean?
So we over the years, Sharice had a lot of those conversations with businesses downtown, and the bottom line is there's nothing to enforce it.
There's no.
And those that want to will, and those that don't,
They will not.
they just.
But isn't there something if they have a planter or, you know, pots or whatever that are unkempt, disgusting, whatever? That's on city sidewalk, that's not on their property. So don't you have jurisdiction over that? Is that you need to remove it, if you're not gonna maintain it, it needs to go away. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's a good point.
I mean, that would be better to have nothing than to have a pot of what, going dead, you know?
We have planters in front of our office, small office, and we keep good care of them.
Which is, yeah.
But they're out of it's all the public right of way, but it's out of the walking strip. So we intentionally put small ones, skinny ones. But yeah, it's all over the board. Some people are really take good care and some people don't care.
Yeah.
They think it's someone else's problem.
Well, and in
It's their
this
storefront.
situation, you know, what we will often be told is, yeah, I'll do that as soon as we stop the homeless people from coming in,
No,
tossing the trash or tearing down our plants.
I think in certain areas, there's a lot of expense associated with cleaning day after day. So, are you keeping?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, so we're next door neighbors. But down by the Pacific Combination, it's probably pretty hard. Cigarette butts, that's multiple times a day.
Which brings me, I think I showed you the pictures that I saw in Seattle, they have these trucks.
Sorry,
Yes.
Alice.
And you can call them, it's on the, how do you call it, on demand clinic or something, in the city. They do amazing job, so anybody can call and they come with their little, whatever solution they spray. And if you are hanging out there sleeping, you're gonna move, they're gonna spray. I thought that was brilliant, so I wonder if you guys will.
Well, so that's one thing that as we get the P-Dot Street parking launched and stabilize, see what our revenues are, and then start looking at those additional revenues. Then we start prioritizing how those will be spent, and that might be something that the board considers in the future as we're developing that budget.
it'll be an interesting day when we have
Those
money to decide.
Well, I think it's critical because I have talked to people who don't want to come to the town because it's not clean in their opinion and not safe. So, how to bring more revenue, we need to clean, get everything up. Right? So I wouldn't necessarily wait, because we gotta make town more comfortable. So for men, when commerce happens, the money comes. People start to- So, but I know it's tough problem, we don't have funds.
No, we don't have money in the parking fund, and everybody's aware of the general fund issue.
It's just a cart and a horse that has the chicken and the egg between a rock and a hard place.
There you go.
Well, isn't it educating business owners that that is your front porch, that is that's the face that you're putting forward.
That's right.
I mean, is it just, because some people, you know, you go to their house, wow, I thought you wanted, so, you know what I'm saying, so people have different levels what they think is acceptable, so maybe it is businesses that are neighboring these people, we can take people under their wing and show them what, you know.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's where strong business associations can add a lot of value. Too, you know, I mean, lots of times businesses are gonna be more receptive to hearing that from an association than they are from the city coming down and,
Yeah.
you know, getting all government in their faces.
And there's a time between those vacancies and then claiming and stuff like that we're talking about. A lot of times it's 1%, 7, nobody's there.
well, there's an awful lot of
They're not
them
very
are
good.
occupied that are pretty filthy right now, so just saying.
The safety perception, 2 times a year, I get full reports from the police department, have them give me their calls for service logs for our parking facilities. And it includes a calls for service, incidents where police report is taken, and arrests. And so we can track it, you know, quarter to quarter. As I do that, I'll start copying I do periodically, you know, if something comes up from a business or developer, you know, then I can send that report out and I'll share it with council members, but I'll pull the most current ones that I have, which I think are Q1, 2, 3 of last year. I don't have, usually there's a spike around the holidays. I don't have that. Information. But since we've increased security, those numbers have been tracking pretty consistently, either staying even or decreasing for the most part, which is good.
Well, and Mason gives us a bad rap too, because Mason parking lot is awful. And everybody thinks it's part of the city parking garage. And we, you know what I mean, so the perception is-
Yeah, so they park there, something happens.
And then, so
somebody gets
downtown
it
is
right?
awful.
Yeah.
Great data. Affirming, frankly, unsurprising. Banner's even gone on here. I always do look up at the banner right before I go by the fire department. I'm like, what's good? What is it now? That's an expense, you know?
So when Macy's goes out, you're still gonna get your property tax if it's owned by somebody, and it's not, you know, but, so do you see something happening right away in Macy's, or have they asked for grants?
No, they haven't asked for grants yet. We've had meetings with them just about the programs. I know that there are negotiations that have been underway. I don't know if those have continued or not.
For China, for.
Yeah.
Speaking of.
Banners, did anybody see the brief political inappropriate banner on Marion Parkade that on inauguration day, Marion Parkade? Yeah, but you got it down really fast.
What was it?
It was just a political banner that somebody put on Marion Parkade. I think they got into it really fast. I haven't heard anything from the community.
Sounds
so I
appropriate.
don't know.
Or inappropriate.
Could be anything.
I have no idea what it said or whether it's that. How they got it down.
It was, I don't know exactly what it said, other than they said it was politically charged, and I didn't ask what side. But they said they got it down fast, and so they were asking me if I'd heard anything. We must have gotten it down really fast. I didn't hear nothing, so you guys haven't heard it.
I didn't.
Must have,
We have seen positive things from Hodges though, the last few years especially. Having security in place, we're in a different end of town. So, our perspective then, it's better.
good. Ish. I'll take it as.
It was a huge investment for the 24-hour security. Huge. It's shocking how expensive it is. So it's great to hear the graphs are looking like this.
Yeah, and what that does too, is we pull those reports, so we can see, is it, activity shifts, you know, and so if we see that there's an uptick in one location, then we can shift focus there.
That's the communication that the city needs to do. I think we get better buying. So that instances, if you're showing security, change the store hours, my staff hours, remove everything. So that people are. So I've seen lots of.
We haven't had as many incidents in our closet, we haven't had unwelcome visitors in our lobby.
What kind of followers do these security? Are they similar to police? And
They will contact, they can ask somebody to leave,
they cannot arrest.
they cannot arrest, no, but they can contact police directly when, so basically if they come across somebody who's, you know, taking up a stairwell, an elevator, or anything like that, they will ask them to leave. If the person isn't compliant, then they'll reach out to the police. As they're patrolling, if they see somebody that's maybe looking a little suspicious, they'll just stop and start conversations with people. And that often gets people to move on.
Well, there's so much good work getting done. I think when you talk about vacancies and whatnot, Like, I can only imagine the conversation the downtown advisory board was having 15 or 10 years ago. Because the vacancies now, it really is nothing compared to where we have been. Like downtown is, Cherie's old job title is the downtown revitalization manager. To me, it feels like downtown is in the middle of really, past the Renaissance, it feels like. We really are on the upswing. And we have these huge vacancies at JCPenney and Macy's in the mall, which is thankfully have new local, really excited, enthusiastic ownership. But when you have some new developments coming in and parking stalls, which currently in Marion there's tons of, but just like that, they're gonna be gone. So I feel like the work that's being done now and that has been being done is prepare downtown for this. It just feels like we're in this middle of this transition with these large holes, which other cities are experiencing too with these big retailers going out. This is just our turn. So it's really exciting. And that we've got a really healthy budget. I mean, look, set aside downtown parking, but you know, we're getting there. The riverfront feels good to go through. So we're a little bit early before our scheduled time. Charles?
I have a question about March 27th.
Yeah.
That's spring break.
Okay. Time in March.
So
really quickly too to address this, so I'm coming from the West End Regional Advisory Board, North Gateway and West End, we don't do like a formal vote on canceling meetings, usually like a discussion with the chair and vice chair. And then it's really just the efficiencies. Since you guys addressed the budget, it's not really a reason to have a February meeting. So it was a bit presumptive to put it on there that way, so came across that way, I apologize, but not really a need to meet on February because the budget, and then as far as March, I want to do a different day or which day.
I'm so glad you helped this out because I'm gone during the 27th and the week before. Or, you know, the week of the 10th or the week of the 3rd or April. Is there any pressing stuff that's coming up?
So what we would have for the next agenda and would be an update on the parking structure. So we'll have bring a consultant to speak to it. So yeah, it'll be good information.
Is anyone opposed to pushing it to April?
No.
Okay. So would that defer us to the 3rd week?
I think it's typically, what is the 4th week?
So April 24th.
Since it's going to be so far out after the start to do a small.
That would be great. Can't wait to be here.
Oh, and
Big shoes.
I don't have the exact dates. I'm waiting on another 3 inspections on an elevator, but we'll informally go to in the very near future. Close to Valentine's Day. That's a certain. So, bring your box of chocolates.
It's been a while since we've taken a field trip as a board. That's worthy. Okay, everybody. Well, with that, we plan on meeting April 24th. Do we need to vote on that?
It's up to you guys, but it's not, so in my what happens with your principals, organizing principals, is usually if you're shifting like from online to in person or changing the day of the week or on a recurring basis, just cancel it. But if you want to take a motion.
I think in the past we have. I feel more comfortable if we put it in the minutes so we can just make sure we just. So can I ask for a motion for a canceling of 27th?
A motion to cancel the March 27th Downtown Advisory Board meeting and schedule the next one for April 24th.
Second.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of canceling the March 27th Downtown Advisory Board meeting and scheduling our next meeting for April 24th, say aye. Does not, nay. Motion carries and we are adjourned 1 minute early. Great job,
You can
Tori.
write that from now on. I'll have it as a motion.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you all for being here.
Also,
Got everything?
yes, thank you.
Okay.
You got this in heart
Yes.
and God willing is, so far so good.
She's not looking at her time now.
We're still, that's fine.
Yeah, she's back 2 days.
Thanks for-
Yes, I'll check on the.
Yeah.
Couldn't stay